And welcome back to Wise Guys Sports Show here on Southern Miss Radio. Let's start with your scores now. In the NFL, we had the Colts beating the Texans 33-28.
It was such a great game.
J.J. Watt, is always in the news.
Had his third touchdown of the season. He's a defensive end. He had his third touchdown of the year last night.
What a guy.
But they couldn't pull it out. But it's a tough division, the AFC South with
Finally,
Indianapolis.
some good news in the NFL. So nothing really in the MLB last night, but tonight we have the AL playoffs. The Royals matching up against the Orioles. So we'll talk a little bit more in the show about some MLB and what's going on with the playoff situation.
Yep.
And no college football last night, but tonight we have Washington State playing number 25 Stanford at 9 p.m.
I think Wazoo's got a shot. Mike Leach is their coach. They've been playing tough all season, so I think you know what their score of their game last week was against Cal?
What was
they
it?
lost 60-59 to Cal last week.
What a game. Wow.
No defense at all, but yeah,
Yes.
it was entertaining.
So let's kind of go into our headlines. We'll start with a little college football, if you don't mind. We know that Mississippi football is lighting it up. It's probably the best state in college football right now. We had Ole Miss and Mississippi State on the cover of Sports Illustrated this week, blowing up the national scene. Did we see this coming for these two teams?
Oh, no, we never see it coming from the state. It's the landmass between New Orleans and Mobile. No one ever talks about the state of Mississippi. So it's great for the state. I just wish USM could get on the ball with it too, and we could show that that the lower half of the state is covered too.
Right. So why do you think both teams have been so successful?
Well, I mean, Dan Mullen has done Hugh Freeze and Dan Mullen have done an incredible job of recruiting. For Mullen, it's taken him a little longer, I think, for them to get their feet wet, but I think he's finally coming into his own as an SEC head coach. State has averaged maybe an 8-4 season ever since Mullen took over. I think would be fair to say. But this is finally the culmination of Dan Mullen's recruiting and his coaching, getting his system in. I think this is the culmination of it finally coming together. And he's found his guy in Dak and Prescott. I mean, they've never. That's the thing for State. They've never had a quarterback to take the lead of the team like this guy has. And he's the best quarterback in the, if not in the country, at least in the SEC. He's the best quarterback.
Right.
And then with Ole Miss, Bo's been shaky to start the season, and he's had a rough career. Honestly, he hasn't had that much of a career at Ole Miss. But now, Bo finally came into his own this past weekend at home against Alabama, and he played like a Heisman candidate. It was incredible. He outdueled Blake Sims by a far margin. His completion percentage, I think he only completed 18 to 31. It felt like it was a 95 completion percentage. It looked like he couldn't mess up at all.
Especially in the second half. And talking about, finally having those recruits play as well as they can. That's kind of something that Southern Miss has been going through, and it's such a good feeling. And you're not going to be good, and that's what was so impressive about Alabama these past couple of years, because it's like they can never fail. Sometimes it takes a while for these players to mature and really play well, but it's finally catching up with these two teams. Great. Let's kind of talk about what they're looking at this week. So we have Ole Miss, number 3, versus 14 Texas A&M.
In College Station, Texas.
Yes.
One of the toughest environments in the country. That's why I think Ole Miss will have somewhat of a letdown this week, because they're coming off the biggest win in program history.
Right.
And so I think they're going to be kind of gassed this week. And I can see, because A&M's coming off a loss to State, so I could see A&M coming out firing with Kenny Hill and Speedy Noyle, their new freshman receiver. So Ole Miss better watch that game. That's a trap game for them.
Well, A&M's coming home angry. I mean, they're dropping over a dozen passes in Starkville. And the Aggies, they have a savvy enough O-line to cope with all the with all the ways the Rebels are using their D-line. Let's talk about
Kandishi.
Right, exactly. We have the Rebels defense. I mean, it's pretty much one of the best in the country. They're number 2 in pass efficiency defense. Aggies still underwhelming, ranking 65th in yards per plate allowed. So this could help Ole Miss with the upset, but then again, you have to think about...
it's not an upset anymore. A&M's the underdog now, which is different we're not used to this.
Well, I think it's going to be considered an upset due to A&M being at home. That's one of the biggest things. And Bo Wallace, like you said, he struggles on the road.
Can he be consistent? Can he consistently be a top quarterback in the SEC?
Last season, his 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio at home, it translated into less than 1-1 on the road.
Right.
So
So can he perform on the road like he did at home this past week? That's when this week is a defining moment for Bo Wallace's career. Is he going to be a true quarterback in the SEC, or is he just going to be the next Ole Miss flop? Because Ole Miss hasn't found a quarterback. When was Eli the last quarterback they had drafted? I don't want to say he was. I should have checked that stat before, but it feels like I haven't seen an Ole Miss quarterback come out and be strong. Oh, Jevin Sneed. Sneed was the last one. So since Jevin Sneed, Ole Miss has not had a quarterback drafted. And if Bo wants a career in football, I think this is a defining week for Bo Wallace.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit Mississippi State, number 3 also, versus number 2, Auburn. We have, like you said, best quarterback in the SEC, if not in the country, Dak Prescott. He's leading the team. But this week, I think it's going to be more of a defensive battle. What do you think?
Well, I say Dak's the best quarterback in the SEC. The second best quarterback is probably Nick Marshall from Auburn. He's small. He's nothing like Dak. Nothing at all like Dak. He's quick. He's agile. He has the build of a cornerback, which is what he came. He signed with Georgia out of high school as a defensive back, transferred to Auburn, became a quarterback, started there. So he has the build of a defensive back. He's quick, but he could throw the ball too. He lit up LSU's defense last weekend, and I think it's going to be a great game. I do see State coming out on top.
They're at home, College game day in Starkville.
Game day crew, first time in Starkville. They're gonna.
Maybe they'll bring the luck from them being, in Oxford for the first time.
I tell you that game day crew is gonna be sick of cowbells after this weekend. I promise you that. They're never gonna want to hear another cowbell in their life.
I guarantee that.
Did you hear that Auburn is bringing their own cowbells to the game this weekend?
That's kind of...
They're not happy about
it. That's kind of like in Drumline, when they go to the other side and they kind of battle. And
he hits his drum during the drum battle.
Encroaching on kind of scary territory right
there.
They
are not happy about that.
So what else is going on in college football?
Oh, well, we got... Just to recap last weekend, we had... All right, let's start with the SEC. We have Florida and Tennessee. Tennessee's winning 10-9. Jeff Driscoll is playing awful.
Down to the final seconds.
Yeah, so Jeff Driscoll's playing awful. It's 9-0 Tennessee. They pull Jeff Driscoll, put in freshman Treon Harris, takes him down the field. They score. They kick a field goal. They win. Treon Harris is their guy. Saturday night, guess who gets arrested for sexual assault? Mr. Treon Harris. And then Sunday, Skylar Morningweg, the other backup, gets in a fight in the locker room with the defensive lineman. It is a dumpster fire for the quarterback situation in Florida right now because all they're left with is Driscoll, and he's not performing. So I don't really see Florida being the Florida that we know anymore. I think this is going to be Will Muschamp's last season in Florida, actually. I think they're that bad. They got lucky to beat Tennessee. Tennessee was a better team, I think, than them. And
it was only a 1-point win.
And then we had also LSU just tanking.
Right, yes.
People are saying, the Alabama LSU dynasty is over. I don't think it's a little quick to say that because, LSU, they are 4-2. They can still put together a 10-win season at this point. I don't see it happening. I can see LSU going 8-4, which would be their worst season in recent memory. And it's too early for Bama, too. This is a defining week for Alabama. They have Arkansas on the road at Arkansas, which is a tough place to play as well. Arkansas looks good to me this season.
This is what makes college football so fun because you don't want the same teams winning over and over again. Exactly. It was getting a little boring for me watching Alabama win all the time. And now, being in Mississippi, it's just great to see these two teams who have worked so hard deserve...
And the SEC East is never predictable because it's always consistently weaker than the SEC West. The SEC East is topped by Georgia, Mizzou, and Kentucky. Kentucky's 4-1 with a 1-0 record after beating South Carolina last weekend. Good on Mark Stoops for that because he's a great coach. I think they're going to do great with him. I don't think he'll be at Kentucky long. I think he's going to get a better job somewhere else. But you never know. I think Georgia is the prime candidate. But after what happened yesterday, moving on to this, Todd Gurley, their running back, is suspended indefinitely for alleged violation of NCAA rules. A source told ESPN that Gurley was given money for autographs. He was accepting money. It was said that he was taking between $8 and $25 per signature. So, pending an investigation, their Heisman candidate running back is out. So they turn to freshman Nick Chubb, who's been good for them this season. He has 31 carries for 224 yards.
Wow.
So he'll be the starter this weekend against Mizzou. But Georgia was supposed to be the front runner, and I know they had that loss to South Carolina, but they still looked good. But now it's a little questionable because their main guy, Todd Gurley, is gone for indefinitely. I think we may see him back towards the end of the season, but as of right now, he's done. Then who else we got? We got LSU, and we got the battle of the what have been
the swamp.
LSU and Florida. It's at Florida, so I couldn't even tell you who's going to come away with that win. It's a matter of who's less bad in that one, I think, because I'm just not impressed with either of those teams right now. And so this week nationally, we have Florida State, number 1, going to Syracuse. Florida State doesn't play anybody. That's why they're never going to lose. And then we have North Carolina at Notre Dame. That could be a trap game. Larry Fedora at North Carolina. But it's at Notre Dame, so it's a home game. The big game, I think, out of the Big 12 is going to be undefeated TCU, number 9, versus an undefeated Baylor, number 5, at Baylor. So TCU coming off that big win over Oklahoma last week. I think that could be a trap game for Baylor, but either way, we're going to see an undefeated team lose. So I'm going to be watching that game. That's going to be fun for me.
Awesome. All right, so a lot of college football going on this week.
Oh, and the Red River rivalry, Texas and Oklahoma. It's a lot less relevant because neither team is undefeated, but it's always a fun game.
So let's go into a little bit of NFL now. So we have Adrian Peterson in the news again. The running back's bail was revoked, and he was rearrested due to admitting to a drug tester that he smoked marijuana before taking a urine test Wednesday.
He can't catch a break. I mean, we want to defend. I try so hard to defend the guy, but I mean, there's only so much I can do. There's only so much.
I'm calling for a mandatory counseling service and rehab program in the NFL.
I mean,
it's becoming such a problem that they need to have. I mean, is this a reflection again on Roger Goodell?
I don't know if it goes. I don't know if this can be chalked up to Goodell, but Adrian Peterson's got to get his life together.
The fact that they're not scared of anything, they're not scared of any kind of reprimands, or they just feel like they just get away with things. He's still being paid his salary. He's not available to do anything, with the team or participate in team activities, but he's still receiving all the money. Like, he's just sitting on his butt doing nothing.
And he still has these child abuse charges against him. He appeared in court last week for the child abuse charge.
And that's going to continue on, but this is just going to add fuel to the fire.
So, he was the best running back in the NFL, and I don't know if we'll see him again, honestly, after this. This is sad. This is honestly just sad, is what it is.
So on a lighter note, but still it's kind of bad, Colin Kaepernick was fined $10,000 for wearing Beats headphones during a post-game press conference.
So stupid.
Beats have been banned by the league due to an already existing contract with Bose headphones. Players cannot wear Beats anytime cameras may be around, such as 90 minutes before or after the game, training camp, or off-season included.
This is what the contract states?
Yes. The league came down on Kaepernick so harshly because Beats by Dre Twitter account tweeted pictures of him at the press conference.
Okay, so it was like a marketing point for Beats by Dre.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't think this is the first time an NFL player's ever worn Beats.
And they were pink too, so.
Well, it's Breast Cancer Month, so.
Right.
I don't agree with that. I think they're just trying to make an example out of him. But 10 grand is chump change to Colin Kaepernick.
Right,
so.
And this is the less of the kind of bad stuff that's going on in the NFL right now.
So it's not
kind of a crazy
silly
thing. I feel like
it is.
Everything, they try to make news out of everything nowadays. So
yeah, it's just silly.